So Shiva, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Great. So in the last class, we started single stage object detection algorithms. The first one is SSD. So complete we completed the SSD architecture to a certain extent, but we faced an issue of not able to detect bigger objects in an image. It can detect only the smaller objects in the image. Okay, so this is the basic architecture. So what is that actually? You just take the input image, just take the input image, and then take the convolution layer 4 block from VGG16 and supply that output, supply that feature map to a fully connected layer, so that this layer will pass this fully connected layer, or the values will be passed to logistic regression, where it gives the objectness score. If that objectness score is greater than some threshold, here it's 0.5, it just combines both the classification values, the classification softmax distribution, and as well as the bounding box coordinates. Everything is predicted in the last layer. But what is happening when I just test this model is it is not able to detect larger objects. Then what people have done to solve this problem is they've actually added more convolution layers and reduced the size of the feature map. So now this is convolution 5. This convolution 5 is further reduced to get I think I may not be able to fit here, and I think maybe I have to redraw it. Okay, I have to redraw it. I may not fit here. I'm just redrawing it. Okay. So this is my input image, and I have con4 output, and I have con5, and this is sent to con6. This is sent to con7. This is sent to con8 too. I'll explain now. Let me just try the story first. 9 to con 10 to con 11 to. Okay. So now, firstly, I also have the fully connected layers, right? I'm writing above, or maybe you can write the below also above. Fully connected layers, and then we'll have the final layer. Now what I do is, first of all, whatever the intermediate feature map that I get from VGG convolution 4 block, let me connect to the fully connected layer. Okay. Now this output is sent to logic regression, and I used to get some threshold values for every box. So convolution layer 4, it will propose boxes. Okay. Again, how it proposes? By drawing boxes around each pixel. Okay. So now after this, convolution 5 is connected to convolution 8, convolution 6 to convolution 7. So then convolution 7 is connected to again this one. So convolution 7 is connected to this one. Final fully connected layer. Convolution 82. What do I mean by 82? 82 is an indication that there are two convolution layers in this block. This is a block of two convolution layers. For example, if this is the case, what I mean by conv82 is the configuration is conv1 is like, I have applied 1 by 1 cross 256 filters, and conv2 I take the output of 1 cross 1 cross 256 and apply 3 cross 3 cross 512 with a stride of 2. Okay, with a stride of 2, and you'll get some dimensions. See, from the beginning, I'm not writing the dimensions. Okay, for example, con 4 dimension is 38 cross 512. Con 5 is also the same thing, 38 cross 512. Con 6 dimension is 19 cross 1024. Like that, everything has its own dimension. You know how to calculate the output dimensions. I'm not writing all of them. But if you see the con 8 to dimension, it is actually 10 cross 512. Why 512? Because after applying 512 filters, the depth of the output also will be 512, and this width and height differs based on the filter and padding and striding values. So like that, I'll have the corresponding width and height. I'm not mentioning that, it will be very boring for you if I just try it all, start writing all the values, because the intention is, that's fine. Now 8 2 is also connected. Similarly, I also need to connect 9 2 to this. I also want to connect 10 to this. I also want to connect 11 to this. Okay, everything I'm just trying to connect 8 to 9 to 10 to and 11 to. Why I have to connect? That's the biggest question. See, so generally, why if you start here, the con 4 is connected to this fully connected part, this part. That's a perfect reason, because the intermediate feature map I've taken, for each pixel here I've just drawn a box, and for each box I'm sending to the logistic regression and getting the objectness score. If this objectness score is greater than some threshold, maybe 0.5, then I'm just predicting multiple values in terms of what is the right coordinates of that box, x comma y comma w comma h, and I'm also trying to find out the class name or the object name that is present in that proposed box. So again, assume that there are only 5 objects in the entire data set, then the probability will be something like this for a particular example. So then it will be something like this. Okay, so the highest probability is with 0.5. That means the class or the object class that was present in that proposed box. Maybe if this pertains to car, then I can say that I'll draw a bounding box using X, Y, W, H and label that as car. Okay, and what is the percentage of how much confident you are? That also will be there, 90% or 95, whatever. Okay, so this is the basic idea of SST. Okay, so along with that, I also, that means how many values? Along with this, I'll also have objectness score, because I have to give the probability in at the end of the day. So how many values are there? 4 values, objectness score 5th value. Okay, so that means totally 5 values, plus how many values are here are there here? The number of values are 5 here, but it will change based on the number of objects that you have or the number of classes that you have. Assume that I have totally 5 classes. Totally I have 5 classes in this case, but it can be of 6 classes, 7 classes, or 10 classes, 20 classes. That means in general, if I have 20 classes, then I'll have a softmax distribution of those 20 classes. So total number of values that I have to predict in my last layer is 5 plus k, where k is the number of classes or number of objects that I have to detect. So it's 5 plus k should be the values. Now all this is making sense. All this is definitely making sense, because I just connected the convolution 4 output to my last but one layer, and then followed by the fully connected layer, the last layer, and then followed by receiving 5 plus k values. So everything is making sense. But why I have to pass the output of con 7, the output of con 7, the output of con 8, con 9, con 10, con 11 also to this layer? Why? See, basic reason is, earlier I already told, I'm able to take only small objects in the image, but not the larger objects. But what you observe from con 7, guys, as you increase the number of convolution layers, the width and height will reduce. The width and height will reduce. Yes or no? When these feature maps are reducing the size, earlier when I have drawn the small box here, it is definitely small. But if I draw the same box here on the reduced feature map, if I draw the same box on a reduced feature map, the drawn box will look very big. But in the initial case, the box is very small because the image or the feature map is very high. Now, as you go ahead, the feature map size will reduce. The proposed box size, I'm not changing proposed box size, but actually relatively it will increase in terms of look and feel. Okay, so that means, since if you observe in this particular diagram, my feature map is this, my box is also this. That means my box size is almost covering the entire feature map. That means I'll be able to classify even the bigger objects. You understood the logic? It's a wonderful logic actually. So I'll propose the same sized boxes, but I'll be keep on reducing the feature maps using multiple convolution layers. When I reach to this point, the same box that I've drawn here, if I want to draw the same box here, maybe this is the box and this is the box. The same box, if I draw here, it is almost covering the entire feature map. That means here I will be able to cover the larger objects also. Okay, that's a very, very important point that you have to remember. Okay, so after this, after knowing all the issues, I'll tell you some interesting statistics. People have experimented this, Nana. For example, they've tried this con 4-3, con 7 layer, con 8-2 layer, con 9-2 layer, con. This is the table that I've taken from the research paper only. It's not my experiment. You can also get it and then know the results. So when this is yes, that means they're passing the output feature map of conv v4 output. They're passing the output of conv v4 to this fully connected layer, then also passing the output of conv 7 to the last but one layer, also passing the output of conv to the last but one layer, also passing conv to output conv 9, conv 10 and conv 11 also. The accuracy that they got is around 75%. Okay, on an average, let me take the average of both the values. 74 actually for yes. Okay, so it is around greater than 79. Let me put it in because I no need to have the exact values. It's somewhere greater than 70%. Okay, but if they just applied only conv 7, only passed the output of conv 7 to the last but one layer, you'll be surprised, guys. The accuracy of detection is just 62%. Not even greater than. It's maximum 62%. Maximum 62% that they have observed, 62 to 63%. Okay, so people think that, sir, there is no much difference between 62 and 17. No. Actually, this is around 74%. Almost like this is 74%. Okay, and that is 74 for S. Okay, and 62 for S, corresponding S. So 62 to 74 is definitely a big change. Okay, so what did you observe from this? Actually, when I'm passing multiple outputs of convolutions, every convolution will have its own feature map. Instead of earlier, till now, what we have done, we have used to pass only one feature map to the fully connected layers. But I'm saying that you pass all feature maps that you get after every convolution to the fully connected layer, so that the objects of different scales can also be identified. That's the main idea of SSD. Okay, so again, the important point that you probably will get in the exam. Okay, exam point of view, let us understand here. How many boxes I may get at the end of convolution 11-2, because I'll be keep on drawing some boxes in convolution v4 at every pixel. Con v5 I'll keep on drawing some boxes. Con v6 I'll draw, con v7 I draw, con v8, 9, 10, 11. All the boxes will be sent to this non-fully connected layer, and again objectness score will be calculated, and the one with the highest objectness score only will be considered for the proposing the 5 plus k values. The one which is not satisfying the objectness score will not be considered for predicting the 5 plus k values. It's all known to you. Okay, but how many? Let me tell you guys. It's looking very clumsy, but okay, let me just erase all these things. Okay, now let me write the number of boxes that I'll be drawing in every feature map. See, you know that in the previous architectures, we used to draw 9 anchor boxes for every pixel. And this is an empirical evaluation that they found that 9 is the best. But SSD, the people who came up with SSD said, why should I draw the constant 9 across all feature maps? I don't want to draw. Okay, because the feature map size is reducing, so accordingly the number of boxes also should vary. So what they've done is, this is actually the convolutional 4 size is 38 cross 38. The output size after convolution 4 is 38 cross 38, and they have decided to draw 4 boxes for every pixel. 38 cross 38 pixels are there with me, and for each pixel I'm just drawing 4 boxes. So con 5 they did not draw anything. Con 6 they have not drawn anything, and con 7 they've drawn, because this is why they have to draw. I have not drawn con 5 and con 6 because con 5 output and con 6 output is not sent to fully connected layer. Only con V7 is sent to fully connected layer. Okay, so the number of boxes that I draw here is 19 cross 19 cross. How many boxes I've drawn is 6 boxes I've drawn for every pixel in con V7. Con 82. Con 82 they have drawn 10 cross 10 cross 6. See why suddenly I'm introducing 38 cross 38, 19 cross 19 and 10 cross 10. All these are the output width and height after the convolution operation. So for example, conv 8, after apply conv 8, the output width and height is 10 cross 10, and I'm just drawing 6 boxes for every pixel in 10 cross 10. Okay. And con line 2, I'll be getting an output size of 5 by 5. For each pixel, I'm just drawing 6 boxes. And for conv 10, I'll be getting a output size of 3 by 3, and I'll be drawing 4 boxes. And for conv 11, I'll be getting an output size of 1 cross 1, and I'll be drawing 4 boxes in that. So these are my outputs. 6 boxes, 4 boxes, 6 boxes, 4 boxes, something like that. They identified that this is the required number of boxes at this level. Now you just multiply all these things, Nana. Okay, sorry. If you just multiply this, you'll get 5776. If you multiply this, you'll get 2166. If you multiply this, you'll get 600. If you multiply this, you'll get 150. And if you multiply this, you'll get 36. And you multiply this, you got 4. Now you just add all these guys. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. You add all these guys, and you finally, okay, let me change the color. Yeah, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. You add all that things, finally you'll get number of boxes as 8732 boxes. 8732 boxes, you'll get it. So definitely 8732 boxes are very high number. That's the reason. How many boxes you'll get here, Nana? For how many boxes I have to calculate the objectness score? 8732. But all of them will not pass to the last layer and ask the system to predict 5 plus k values. Only the boxes which are greater than some threshold, you'll ask the last layer to predict the 5 plus k values. What are the 5 plus k values? The classification name, the object name in terms of softmax distribution, and the objectness score to give the percentage around the bounding box, and x comma y comma w comma z to draw the adjusted bounding box when in comparison with the proposed box. See, one thing I thought you'll ask. See, guys, one thing is, for example, I thought you'll ask me the last class itself. See, I'm just drawing for each pixel. I'm drawing 4 boxes. This is one box. This is another box. This is another box. This is another box. Now, the next pixel also will be very close. You know that thousands and thousands of pixels will be very close. These boxes will overlap, right? There will be a lot of overlaps because I'm just drawing pixels for every consequently every pixel, right? 4 boxes I'm drawing for every pixel. Then a lot of overlappings will be there, but I don't want maybe these two guys represent a single object, that I don't want these many overlapping boxes. I just want to draw one box. So again, for each box that you propose, for each box that you propose, you'll get the objectness score, right? This objectness score is greater than maybe 0.7. Okay, then you keep those boxes and remove all other boxes. Totally, you'll have 8 boxes. I assume that for each pixel, I'm proposing 4 boxes. Totally, you'll have 8 boxes, and assume that only 3 boxes satisfy this constraint, and remaining 5 boxes did not satisfy. So you'll remove that. Again, 3 boxes are something like this. 3 boxes are also something like this. This is one thing. This is one thing. This is one thing. And this is another thing. It's difficult to interpret. Okay. Like 3 boxes are there. Now in these 3 boxes, there are many ways you can eliminate them. You take the top score. Of course, I'm just eliminating all the guys which are having greater than 0.7. Now you see what is the intersection. For example, this guy is having almost maximum overlapping with the other 2 boxes. Assume that maximum overlapping with other 2 boxes. Then maybe I'll have to redraw it. This is not the right box. Okay. Maybe I'll just take 2 boxes. Even I don't want to take 3 boxes here. Just take 2 boxes. There are 2 boxes finally which satisfy this constraint. Maybe this is the other box. Okay. Now the outer box covers almost 100% of the inside box. Okay. Then you no need to consider the inside box. Just take the outside box. Because this is, see, remember that I'm drawing for every pixel. There will be thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pixels, Nana. Okay. So this is very important, very, very important. Again, this is just a proposed box, but in reality, you may not have a object in just 1 or 2 pixels. These boxes will be later adjusted by the model. This is only proposing. Okay, because I don't want to miss any object in my image. That's the reason I'm proposing for every pixel. But is it right way? All those things we will see in this class itself. But as of now, we SSD followed to draw 4 boxes, sometimes 6 boxes, some other cases. It's not always 9 as we have drawn in the previous case. Okay. So thing is, firstly, I'll be eliminating a lot of overlapping boxes using the objectness score, and the remaining things will be removed based on the overlapping, either with the ground truth box, either with the ground, because we annotated, right? We annotated to say while we're training. So you can see which object, which box has highest overlapping with the corresponding ground truth box. Okay, or you can eliminate this particular box based on its overlapping with neighboring boxes. And you also can compare the highest. For example, the inside box is convenient like 0.7 and the outside is 0.9. RMC, you can just remove the inside box and consider the outside one. Okay, so like this, multiple constraints are there to identify which one to remove at the last layer and then send this output to the classification and regression values. So this is the main theme of SSD architecture. Okay. Now, after doing all these things, this is, see, simply SSD is this only. No, where is that SSD? Yeah, this is the SSD architecture. So what you have understood from this SSD architecture, I am not only passing the convolution layer feature map to a fully connected layer, I'm adding more convolution layers so that my image feature map will keep on reducing. So the number of boxes that I draw, its size will relatively look very big, so that I'll be able to detect bigger objects because my convolution output size is decreasing. Because for the same box sizes, when the convolution size is decreasing, the boxes look very big. So I'll be able to detect both small boxes, small objects, and big objects and medium objects, because I'm taking the feature maps at different levels. So this is a basic idea of SSD. Now let us come back to the last model in our module 5. That is actually YOLO. Now, what is the full form of YOLO? You only look once. Why it is named like that? Because it's a single shot algorithm. So it's saying that you always need to pass everything in one phase instead of passing it multiple stages in a serial fashion. Okay. Now, why people came up with YOLO? Because there are certain aspects that could not be handled well in SSD. Of course, SSD is far better than RCN and variants. But what is the difference between SSD and YOLO? We'll see that. I'll directly start discussing the YOLO, and while I'm discussing that, you'll come to know what are the differences. Now, do remember, guys, in reality, we will use only YOLO, not RCNN. If I want to compare between two-stage detection algorithms like RCNN and one-stage detection algorithms like YOLO, which one is better depends on the context. For example, if you want to detect the objects with very high accuracy, then go for this. If you want to detect objects very fast, then you go for this. YOLO will not give much more accurate results than RCNN. RCNN cannot perform as fast as YOLO. This is a statement I'm giving. Why? Firstly, let us see. I'm saying that this is faster. This is slower. Why? Why YOLO is faster? It's very simple, because RCNN has two stages where it has selective search algorithm. Here, YOLO do not use selective search algorithm, and everything is passed in a single stage in the CNN network itself. That's the reason it is faster. It is faster. Okay. Now, when coming with the other one, where YOLO is not so accurate. I don't say comparatively less, comparatively less. This is better. Why? Why? Because maybe I think I'll discuss YOLO, then you'll come to know why, comparatively YOLO is not so accurate than RCNN. You'll come to know. This is the question that we're interested. Faster it makes sense because it works in single stage. Slower it makes sense because it works in two stages. But I'm telling that RCNN draws better bounding boxes than YOLO. YOLO will also work extremely well, but in comparison with RCNN, RCNN is slightly better than YOLO in terms of drawing accurate boxes. Why so? We will see. Firstly, I already told multiple times, we have different variants of YOLO. YOLO V1, YOLO V2, YOLO V3, YOLO V4. As of now, the state of the art is YOLO V5. Now, we may not discuss all these guys, because it will be extremely boring for you. What we do is we'll just discuss the middle variant so that it will be easy for you to understand, because I'm discussing whenever I'm discussing V3, it is easy for you to understand V1 and V2. Maybe for the sake of clarity, what I do is I'll also discuss V2 maybe. Okay, firstly, I'll be starting the V3 discussion. While I'm discussing V3, I'll also compare with V2. So V1 is very, very simple. It's dead simple. Just it's a CNN architecture which proposes 5+K values. That's all. That's all. Nothing. I just pass the entire image and finally I get 5+K values. It's very, very simple architecture, but now nobody is using now. So what for your exam, now I'll be discussing V2 and V3, and you have to prepare this on your own. And you need to see what are the differences. This is expected. Some relevant question on this will be can be expected in your FAT exam. Okay. So I'll be showing the difference between V2 and V3, but you have to work it out with V4 and V5 and see what are the differences between them. Okay. Fine. So now let us see this. First, let us start with YOLO V3. Now the question is how YOLO V3 works. Based on whenever I'm explaining YOLO V3, wherever there is a difference between YOLO V3 and YOLO V2, I'll point it out. Okay. So now, firstly, the first step is divide the input image. Divide input image into fixed grids. Fixed grid cells. Divide the entire image into fixed grid cells. That means if I have an image like this, divide. If I want to divide that into 3 by 3, then divide it like this. So this is grid 1, grid 2, grid 3, grid 4, grid 5, grid 6, grid 7, grid 8, grid 9. So like this, you divide into fixed grids. This is the first step that YOLO V3 does. Okay. Now, what we do is we draw multiple bounding boxes. We draw multiple bounding boxes for each grid. For each grid. So how many boxes we draw? Actually, according to YOLO V3, they draw around 3 boxes per grid. 3 boxes per grid. When they have drawn 3 boxes per grid, they could see that proposed boxes can cover only the smaller objects. They can draw, the YOLO V3 used to draw the bounding boxes around a small objects only, smaller objects only. But YOLO V3 could not solve the problem that it cannot draw bounding boxes around larger objects. Then they thought to come up with a new architecture, which we have seen in the labs also. I don't know how many of you remember that. Okay, we will see that. Let me just take you through the diagram, then we'll come back to this. Okay. Let me first draw the architecture. This is my input image. I could have taken something from the internet directly. Drawing will take a lot of time. Okay, just give me a sec, Nana. Let me unshare the screen and maybe I'll take the diagram from the internet only because I don't want to draw it and waste a lot of time. Just give me a couple of seconds. I'll be pasting that. Why it's not posting? Okay. So give me a couple of seconds. This is yes, lot, right? So let me just share the screen again. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So this is YOLO V3 architecture. So similar architecture, not similar architecture, same architecture we have seen in the labs while I'm explaining the object detection. So what is happening here? I have an input image. Okay, so I'll be passing this to some convolution layers. Okay, then I have an intermediate convolution layer. It's a 36th layer. It's a 36th layer. Then similarly, I'll be having multiple other layers and I'll be having 61th layer here. And again, I continue, I'll be having 79th layer. So do not see all the connections, just see my markings. Just observe this 79th. Okay, just keep it aside like that. And I again, okay, I think first we'll go in this sequence only. So 79th layer I have. Now what I do is I actually split my path into branch 1. This is my branch 1. Branch 1. Now what exactly, why I exactly have to see, this is my final output. This is also my output. This is totally, you should remember YOLO V3 has how many outputs? Output 1, output 2 and output 3. 3 outputs. Why 3 outputs? I'll tell you. First, let us focus on the output 1. See, output 1, what it does is, it takes the 79th convolution and reduce the size. See, for example, if you see the convolution size, by the time it reaches here, reduce. By the time it reaches here, reduce. By the time it reaches here, it will reduce. Maybe it is not so visible here, but by the time that it reaches here, by the time that it reaches here, by the time that I reach from here, the size of the feature map drastically reduced. Drastically reduced. Now, if the feature map size is reduced, then it can detect one sized objects, one kind of objects with some size. Okay, now if you observe clearly, whatever the output that I get from 79th, I'll be sending, I'll be adding more layers. But if you see, this is called upsampling layer. This is called upsampling layer. What is upsampling layer? Okay, let me just take an example for you to understand. So actually, upsampling layers preserves the fine-grained features which are helpful to detect small objects. So, but what exactly, like how this works? Let us see that. For example, if I have about upsampling layer, slowly I'll be telling you all the details. We'll see. Upsampling layer. Maybe this is my output of which layer? 79th layer. Okay, output of 79th layer or maybe 80th layer, whatever. Okay, whatever maybe the number. Okay, so some layer, previous layer output. Okay, and assume that this output I'm reshaping to 7 cross 7 cross 128, and this is further upscaled to get 14 cross 14 cross 128. This is further upscaled to get 28 cross 28 cross 64. This is further upscaled to get 28 cross 28 cross 1. Now you see what is happening about width and height. The width and height in this case is increasing, right? In this case is increasing 7 cross 7, 14 cross 14, 28 cross 28, 28 cross 28. So upsampling basically increases the width and height of your feature map. Okay, so that's what here they have done it. So they have taken, if you see clearly, an upsampling layer, they have taken the smaller feature map and increase its size. But how exactly it is done practically? Let us take an example so that you'll understand. Just give me a sec. Just give me a second. The pen is not ready suddenly. Just give me a second. seconds. I don't know, it's charged or what. Okay, whatever. Okay, we'll continue. See, basically upsampling increases the size of your input architecture by just repeating rows and columns. By just repeating the same pixel values again and again, it just actually increases the size. For example, if I just take the size, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I want to increase its size, this is next, like, sub portion of the image. If I want to increase its size, I can just upscale it. I can just upscale it and increase its size. So for that, they can just go with some value. Maybe I'll upscale by factor of 2. I'll upscale by factor of 2. They repeat the pixels. Repeat the pixels and do that. 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5. Now see, I upscaled my entire image by factor of 2 by repeating that pixel value again and again. Pixel value 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, because I want to upscale by factor of 2. Okay, so like this, the upscaling is done even here, to actually get some reasonable sized output. Again, the things goes on. Now, one more thing you can see here, along with upscaling, the previous, just the one of the previous layer 61 output is concatenated with upscaled output. Okay, because see, you are not directly connecting upscale output, you are again transforming and getting some intermediate feature map, and to this feature map again you're connecting 61 to this. Again the question comes, sir, why you're connecting 61th layer here? You remember the residual concept, Anna, in Microsoft architecture, where whenever there are more transformations, I should ensure that the transformation should not deviate from the actual objective. So that's the reason I always remind that please do not deviate, change your gradients and just randomly. You take that this is your initial objective. Again, you remind him like a Gajni. We keep on reminding. That's all. That's the reason the 36 is concatenated with this. 36 is concatenated with this. Concatenation is again a new thing which is introduced in YOLO v3. It is not there in YOLO v2. Okay, I'll tell the differences later, but this is a basic difference. Now, what exactly again we are doing is, since we are upscaling it, and we got better feature map sizes, then compared with this, the feature map sizes are better. Okay, again when compared with these, we keep on, again we upscaled here, and finally we got some better sized feature map. That means totally we have three output branches. Each one detects one sized object. That means if I just want to give the numbers, I'll just give that, Nana. The first one is actually 13 cross 13. If you just calculate this first thing, it will divide the entire image into 13 cross 13 grid. And the second one is actually 26 cross 26. And the third one is 52 cross 52. So that means I will totally form 13 cross 13 grids. I'll have totally 13 cross 13 grids. It's not image size. 13 cross 13 is not image size. It's 13 cross 13 grids I'm forming. Here I'm how many grids I'm forming? 26 cross 26. So each one is a grid, Nana. If you see, each one is a grid. Like that, how many grids I have? 26 cross 26. And then the last one has 52 cross 52. Why can I have that many grids? Because the feature map sizes are increasing because of upscaling. That's the reason, since I have an upscale. See, very, very important concept, and it's not just like they're randomly done. Generally, what happens with the convolution layer? Your feature map size keeps on decreasing. This is the case. If this is initial feature map, then feature map sizes keeps on decreasing. This one, it keeps on decreasing. But I don't want like that. What they have done to ensure that it is not constantly decreasing, they have put upscaling layers. This is not upscaling. They have put the upscaling layer so that the initial output size is this. Later output 2 sizes are increased. Feature map sizes are increased. The final output branch of feature map sizes are further increased. Since they're increased, I could do only 13. I could draw only 13 by 13 boxes here. I could draw here many boxes, 26 cross 26. Now, and the last output layer, I could draw 52 cross 52 boxes. That many boxes I could draw. Not boxes, that many grids. So 13 cross 13 grids, 26 cross grids, 15 cross 52 cross 52 grids I used to draw. Okay. Now, if you observe what is happening, this particular 13 cross 13 grid is used to detect larger objects. Why larger objects? Because the grid size is high. Because 13 cross 13, my entire image was divided into 13 cross 13 only. My entire image was divided into 13 cross 13. But here, the same image medium-sized objects. The last output divides the same input image into 52 cross 52 so that it can detect smaller objects. It could detect smaller objects. So actually YOLO V3, what it does is it takes every grid here. Draws 3 box, takes the first grid in this case, again draw the 3 boxes. Again, it draws 3 boxes in this first grid. Totally how many? 9. You remember 9, the significance of 9, we used to draw 9 anchor boxes in the previous architecture. Similarly, here also YOLO V3 draws 9 anchor boxes for every pixel. Not pixel, it is for every grid. So the difference is 9 anchor boxes you're drawing, not for every pixel, it is for every grid. And these 9 anchor boxes that you are drawing of grids of different scales, because the grid size is different here, the grid size is different here, the grid size is different here. Okay, so whatever it may be, for every grid at different scales, you draw 3, 3, 3, totally 9 anchor boxes you're drawing. Okay, so this is the other point that you have to remember. So what is the main theme of YOLO V3? In YOLO V3, we are trying to branch out. We're trying to branch out our outputs. We're trying to branch out our outputs into 3 layers: branch out 1, branch out 2, and branch out 3. And I'll ensure that they're upscaled so that the feature map sizes are increasing. And by the time that I reach my final branch, my feature map sizes are further increased. So accordingly, the grid sizes will vary. Accordingly, I'll be able to detect objects of different sizes. Okay, so see, by the time that you reach YOLO V3, your understanding will be completely very, very clear, because from the beginning, we are going in a very slow pace to understand this. So the only difference is drawing 9 anchor boxes is fine, but we will be not drawing at a single feature map. This is one feature map, this is another feature map, another feature map. For every grid, we'll be drawing 3, 3, 3, and each output will have a responsibility of detecting the different scaled objects. So that's the only difference. Okay, so now in the next class, what we do is I'll be comparing the YOLO V3 architecture, with YOLO V2. Okay, then we will see what is the difference, and you'll have a clarity how people have come up with an architecture YOLO V3 from YOLO V2. Okay, this difference we will see in the next class, and this I think next class in the sense next week. So once this is done, we'll be completing our module 5. Hardly small topics there, but that is covered in the lab. Like the last topic is custom object detection that you have done practically. Okay, practically you've done using label MG, you've annotated and everything you've done practically. So there's no point in discussing that again. And after this YOLO V3 comparison between YOLO V3 and YOLO V2, we'll be just refreshing our custom object detection and then directly jumping into the module 6, which is the last module, which is based on GANs. Okay, so we'll see that in the next class and I'll take your questions.